Hi, I'm Mike Napulse, and this is part 2 of my 5-part series going over all 5 of Starfield Skilltrees. Watching the first one isn't required, but if you're interested in this, you'd probably be interested in it too. So without further ado, Episode 2, Friendship is Magic! Illusion Magic. So, since we've seen the whole thing in both this year's and last year's trailers, we actually have confirmation on almost everything on the social tree, which you use to cook food, collect loot, command allies, control enemies, convince the neutral, and capitalize on business opportunities, with the specific mechanics of those skills more in doubt than their broad function. The cooking category is just one skill, gastronomy, which lets you cook better food and unlock new recipes. For collecting loot, we have scavenging, which seems to be just scrounged mixed with cap collector, and theft, which replaces pickpocket, and which could be boring, but might allow for some low-key grade mischief if it follows the progression of Skyrim and Fallout 4's pickpocket skills and lets you steal the helmets off of enemies while in less than hospitable atmospheres. Then we've got capitalism, which is just your standard barter and one that seems to let you open up business, possibly as a building and outposts. Commanding allies has 2 clear skills, leadership and outpost management, and a third that I think is also a part of it that looks like a pilot's chair and could signify a role as a captain, and thus form a trifecta, with the other 2 to have 1 skill for companions with you, 1 for spaceship crew, and 1 for settlers, though we don't know how the skills will affect your crew, other than leadership making it slightly easier to make friends with them at low levels, and conceivably allowing you to have more than 1 companion at high levels, as the patch upgrades from having 1 person following you to a crowd, and almost at the very end of the trailer as the music is swelling, we see you, Vasco, and a 3rd character on an alien world together, which could just be someone you're with as part of a quest, but could be a 2nd permanent companion. What gaining affinity with your followers accomplishes is unclear. Likely candidates are unlocking companion quests, leveling up their skills, and just general stat boosts, though we do see the companions at the beginning of the game already have some max skills without friendship built up. We also don't know how companion support skills work. The general theories are the bonus theory, in which you simply get a bonus to whatever skills you are using if your companion is also good at that skill, and the borrowing theory, in which if your companion is better at a skill than you are, then you use their skills instead of your own when using it. I don't think we have a lot of evidence either way. One possible piece of evidence in support of the borrowing theory is that we were told that your companions can speak for you in some dialogue, but it's unclear whether they can use their persuasion skills for you, or if they know the person you're talking to, they can make a personal appeal for you. Regarding space gameplay, the borrowing style could pose an issue in that it could make it almost pointless to learn any skill that a companion was already good at, like piloting or astrodynamics, but as you would need to have room for that companion on your ship, it could also create an interesting dichotomy between a sort of ace pilot style build where you do invest heavily in your piloting skills and go for a small maneuverable ship that lets you really show off how good you are, and a starship captain style of gameplay where instead of maxing out your own skills, you get a very large ship and fill it with crew members who can handle those things for you. While a bonus-based system would consistently give big ships the advantage. Neither system, however, would explain why Barrett specializes in particle beam weaponry but pilots a ship that doesn't have any. Then come the control skills, which are basically just illusion spells reskinned. Minor development from Lit is that diplomacy is no longer a rank 1 skill, so you'll need to get a little social experience before you can get the proper pacifist options. Major unknowns are A, whether you can use them in dialogue, like Terrifying Presence in New Vegas, B, what their cooldown is, since if a skill can be used rapidly, then it's more viable to spam it in combat. Well, if they have longer cooldowns, then they'd be more of a setup skill to give you the edge at the beginning of combat. And of course, what the calculations for success are, since the Intimidate skill was shown in detail and doesn't claim to have a better chance to succeed at higher levels, though it probably does and that's just implied. One interesting possibility is that different alien species with different temperaments might be susceptible to different kind of effects, since while the PC in the trailer has a 100% chance to apply any of the effects to this Thorn Mantis, despite its fearless nature, players who aren't in dev mode might have to factor that into their attempts, with something fearless being resistant to intimidation, whereas something cautious might be easier to intimidate, or something perhaps territorial could be more easily frenzied. This could theoretically even apply to human enemies, with Varun cultists being zealous and thus crazy enough to frenzy, but difficult to intimidate, while ecliptic mercenaries, being only in it for the money, might be a little easier to calm down. Though, that is of course me just saying things that I think would be cool, rather than any kind of actual evidence-based conclusions about the game. Either way, I suspect analyzing dinner guests with a lifeform scanner is a faux pas in most cultures. For convincing people, we have your basic persuasion and bribe skills with bribe called negotiation. Oddly, the skill-related checks don't seem to be the safe bets I thought they would be, as this guy, while heavily influenced by a bribe, is also not that likely to take it, though it's also entirely possible that your character just isn't very good at bribing people. So yeah, that seems to be about it for the social skill tree. Overall impression, it's okay. The mind control skills seem very interesting. The command skills are potentially interesting, as we actually know very little about their specific mechanics. As stated in the intro, most of the other skills seem a little generic. Anyway, tune in next time for the combat skills.